What's up, guys? This is your King of the Night, Vincent Valentine EX Turk, and we're here with another Final Fantasy segment, and I'm going to list top 5 reasons why Final Fantasy 15 is not getting a sequel, and why Versus 13 will never be a sequel, because again, in order for a sequel to work, it would have to have an ending with a cliffhanger. So, starting with number 1, the ending. Yes, the ending was vague. We never got answers. But we know Noctis have killed himself to destroy the ring. And yes, you do see a happier ending with Luna Freya and Noctis, but they're both in the afterlife. It's actually confirmed by Square Enix that they're both in the afterlife. That's when you see that one scene on the throne. They're both dead. Now, we don't know what happened to Gladiolus, Ignis, and Prompto. We could say they joined because of the campfire scene, but that's all up to interpretation. But the main character, Noctis, is dead, and there's no way to bring him back. And even if there was a way to bring him back, and he does come back, say theatrically he does come back, the ring is destroyed, so there would be no... Arden could not come back. Arden was the beginner of this mess. I mean, yeah, the Niflheim Empire was evil, but... who actually spoon-fed the Niflheim Empire information about stuff? It was Chancellor Arden Azunia. The Niflheim Empire was power-hungry, but all they had was regular soldiers until the time they could figure out how to turn demons into how to fuse demons into human subjects to make Magitech soldiers, which again was all Arden's idea. So with no Arden, no Niflheim return unless Idolus have trained somebody, but even then, the new Niflheim Empire wouldn't be as strong as the old Niflheim Empire because the new Niflheim Empire wouldn't be using demons because the demons have been banished. After Arden got destroyed, the ring got destroyed, so Arden's spirit is gone. So that same darkness he brought to the world is gone. So all the demons are gone from planet Vios. There's, as long as the two people who created the Star Scourge is dead, then you know what? The Star Scourge is over, because the Star Scourge was created by, Ifrit. And then, Arden took some control of the Star Scourge. But without Arden and Ifrit, there's no Star Scourge. And Niflheim Empire, any new Niflheim people would be weaker without the power of the Star Scourge. So there's no Niflheim Empire, period. I don't care. That end discussion, the ending, it ended the way it did. Chapter 13 was a mess. I'm gonna admit that. But even with that, there's not going to be no sequel based off the ending. And since I'm going a little bit too far and a little bit too long in this video, I should probably get to the other reasons why they're not going to make a Final Fantasy 15 sequel. The second reason, they already have a completion. You just didn't notice. Now, before you could type on the keyboard and say, "How dare you, Jeff Jackson? I wanted Versus 13 to be a sequel. It would have been a beautiful game." Well, remember, Noctis was the main character of Versus 13 before it became 15. So, again, that'd be improbable if it's the same game, and Versus 13 is the same game as 15. Just changed concepts. Complete changed concepts. Alright, and Eos is Etro, if you really think about it. Etro committed some crimes that were against humanity. Same thing with Eos, and that's why if you look into Final Fantasy Peasant's theory about the tragic story of Eos and Ifrit and Arden, that even though it's only a fan theory, he was right on the money with it. You would have to go watch that video, which I did a response to that video, which has the link to the real video if you want to see that. So Eos is Etro if you really think about it. So there we go. You got your Versus 13 and Final Fantasy 15 without you even realizing it. So the sequel wouldn't be called Versus 13. Now let's move on to number 2. Back to number 2 because I got sidetracked. There's already a completion to Final Fantasy 15. You got Final Fantasy 15 Brotherhood, where it's an anime about each of the characters' backstories. The Noctis, Ignis, Prompto, Gladiolus, backstories of how they met each other. and pretty much it. And then Noctis getting the strength to defeat Malonith, or whatever it is. Malonith, that one demon thing with the swords that was under the Magitech army's jurisdiction. It ends after Noctis defeats her. Okay. Kingsglaive. It was the movie directly before the events of Final Fantasy 15. The minute that King Regis sent his son and his friends to Altissia, hoping they make it to Altissia, all the events that happened there and there was when Noctis was on already been to two places in the game. Already went through 2 places in the game. On the map is when Kingsglaive was happening, you know, where Idolus and his men were attacking, and his Idolus sent General Glocka to attack King Regis, and Glocka killed King Regis, as well as when, you know, Ravis Nox Fleury tried on the ring and burned his arm off, and then he had to get a metal arm. As well as when, you know, Lunafreya was trying to escape the city to go to Altissia. In fact, she made it there faster than Noctis because the boats took her. So, you know, but it was on her way out of the city. You know, and I think those civilians that you see at the end of the Kingsglaive movie go into Altissia. But yes, the movie happened kind of before the events of Final Fantasy 15. Now, if you want to go even way back, the other completion to Final Fantasy 15 was Platinum Demo. Platinum Demo was about Noctis' childhood, or at least Noctis' dream after being nearly killed by Malonith, which ties into Brotherhood, except this time Noctis is asleep, so Noctis goes to Altissia and solves a puzzle in his playroom and solves a puzzle, and then realizes that he didn't need to be scared of anything, so little kid Noctis turned to grown-up Noctis, defeat Iron Giant, got in the limo, the dream was over. Noctis was able to wake up in Tenebrae, you know, made a new friend in Lunafreya, and then that's how they met, and that's how the 2 kingdoms of Insomnia and Tenebrae came to a partnership after that. So, yes, that ties into that story. Episode Ducade, yes. Episode Ducade, the Final Fantasy 15 demo that came in the Type 0 game. If you got the day 1 of Type 0, and I did. I got the day 1 of Type 0. Even though I got a PS4 a little bit later, that does not negate the thing. I got a PS4 a little bit later, but I was able to find a day 1 edition at Walmart. It was still in the case for $30, so I got it. So it came with the Episode Ducade demo. So Episode Ducade would still be part of the completion of Final Fantasy 15. It's just it's the same as I guess it'd be like, I don't know, chapter 3 or 4. I can't remember, the one where you get Rama. The chapter where you get Rama. It's just in a different perspective. You know, as you can see, Cindy is there in Episode Ducade, but she's not there in the actual game when you go to get Rama, because it's from a different point of view. And with a different point of view, there's actually no, you know, it's a different point of view. So with that, yes, that is part of the completion. And then there's other completions that are out too, such as the arcade game King's Knight. The only thing they need to do, Final Fantasy 15 related, is put Noctis in Dissidia Arcade. Even if it's him by himself, just like they did with Lightning and Duodecim, where they put Lightning's villain. Even if it's Noctis by himself, you could throw Noctis into the game of Dissidia. That's the last thing they need to do. And then you have the completion of Final Fantasy 15. Number 3, Final Fantasy games are known to put pre-existing cutscenes that are purposely a cliffhanger, saying you have to play the next game. If you remember playing Final Fantasy 13, there's a cliffhanger talking about Final Fantasy 13-2. After you beat Final Fantasy 13-2, you hear about Benevelza. And when you're hearing about Benevelza, it relates to Final Fantasy Lightning's Return, 13 Lightning's Return, because Benevelza is a product of Lightning's Return, which you get to see the arc of Benevelza at the end of Final Fantasy 13-2, after you defeat Caius and restore the future. The world ends because of all the timelines that were destroyed, so you had to go save souls. So everyone was transferred to a new world and only had only like 7 days to live, and you had to go save them. But the point is, Final Fantasy 13-1 and 13-2 purposely put cliffhangers there because they knew they're gonna make a sequel. Now, Tabata didn't want any sequels in this game, and that's why he combined all the sequels together in one. And that's why Chapter 13 was such a disaster, because they didn't want there's no sequels planned. Because there's no sequels planned early in the game, there's actually no reason for them to make a sequel to Final Fantasy 15. So that's third reason why it is. There's no pre-planning. There's no pre-planning for a sequel. So, and they do that. They always do that. If you really look at Final Fantasy VII, and Avid Children, the beginning of Avid Children is the exact ending of Final Fantasy VII. And then after, Dirge of Cerberus is exactly the ending after the ending of Avid Children. So they plan their sequels. Even if they do it premeditated, they still plan their sequels nonetheless. They plan to go back and make more games on the select game, just like they did with 10 and 10-2. So, since there's no cliffhanger endings like that, we didn't get very much answers, but we just know it ended. That's all we know. Everything that went back to peaceful, so it ended. That's it. There's no more. There's no more. So number 4, Final Fantasy 15 cost a lot. The Final Fantasy 15 cost a lot to make, even over the development of 8 years or 10 years when it was still Versus 13. It cost them an astronomical amount of money, and right now their money is Square Enix's money is going toward Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake and all their other games. So they would have to cancel one of those projects or push back one of those projects in order to make a Final Fantasy 15-2, or 15 or whatever, 15th sequel we'll call it. So because of that, because of money constraints, we're not going to see a Final Fantasy 15 sequel anytime soon right now, because Final Fantasy 7 Remake is being currently made right now, and so is Kingdom Hearts 3, and those are the games that they're really worried about. And then there's Final Fantasy 16, which originally was Angie's Philosophy, and now since it's probably going to be confirmed to be a new project, so they might actually make this into a Final Fantasy 16. So their money's going to Angie's Philosophies too. So that's number 4. Number 5. Number 5. There's no reason to put anything from Final Fantasy 13 to 15 because it's no longer Crystallium Novia, Crystallium Novia anymore. So there's actually no actual point or reasoning for this. So, and it's just there's no reasoning for it. Okay, we'll just put it right there. There's no actual reasoning for this to actually be a thing. And again, if it, so there's no reason for that. And yes, the ending didn't put no questions in there, but I'm pretty sure OVAs will be made. I'm pretty sure other things will be made about it, but they're not going to make another game. They're just not going to make another Final Fantasy 15 game. This was supposed to be our Versus 13 that we waited for 10 years, and it has. Has it done the best? It has until Chapter 13. So there's some imperfections, but it still turned out the way we wanted it. So in the end, it turned out good. It sold well. It did what it needed to do. So there's really no reason, and it did kind of repair the reputation of Final Fantasy because, no offense, as much as I love 13, people hated 13, and Final Fantasy fans couldn't get in. Also, I might add, there's just no reason to. They wanted to give us this game for a long time, and now they're going to give us the remake to Final Fantasy 7 and Kingdom Hearts 3. And if it makes even more money, we'll be able to see Angie's philosophy and more content from them. So, and I know this is kind of a content maker. There's no need to go back on the same content, so we're good.